Welcome to Managing Your Perimeter. I am Anna Real. Today I'm joined by PJ O'Neill and then another special guest who I'm going to let PJ announce. Who is with us today? PJ, I'm looking at your background. It says you're in Nashville. You are not in Nashville because I am sitting in Nashville and staring at that bridge that's in your background. So please tell me where you are, sir.
I am in the beautiful suburbs of Chicago. Just want to get out and enjoy the sunshine because it's finally a gorgeous day here.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
But, for some reason, Paul decided noon to come on.
Yeah, I know. Blame that on me.
So I can't eat lunch in the sunshine.
Oh, God. No. Well, now that you've mentioned Paul's name, why don't you go ahead and introduce him and then we'll include him in this conversation.
Absolutely. So today we're really fortunate to have a friend of mine who I've known, what are we, like about 15 years now, right? When you were on.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know when it became official. I'm still waiting for that paperwork, but that sounds about right. 15 years.
You didn't get the ring?
No, I didn't get the ring.
You didn't get the secret Dakota ring? Okay.
No. Or the cash.
Yeah. I swear I sent you a check. I promise.
Check to the mail.
So Paul Bradley is the founder and CEO of Eventric. And so to all of our event and touring friends, you know them through their software Master Tour or Live Access, which is their ticketing. And just to give some stats on them, Master Tour and Live Access have powered over 1 million live events, and they help 4,000 artists, bands, corporations really kind of run their events more efficiently and profitably. They're based in Chicago with an office in LA, and their clients are kind of a who's who, including the Who, Red Bull, Marvel, Black Keys, Katy Perry, Beyonce, Metallica. I mean, it's the Zach Brown band, as I mentioned, the Who. They are these guys are the 800-pound gorilla as far as tour software is concerned. And you got the Avengers too with Marvel. That's awesome.
Yeah. That was one of the that was an interesting one outside of the traditional touring, rock and roll band. So that's been fun.
Well, I will tell you that while I was a tour manager way back when, did not have the luxury of using your product. However, I do have a son on tour who's very familiar with your product.
And nice.
I think he's that was with his third band and his third use of it. So often when I
awesome.
him, I will be like, open that app and tell me what you see in there. But I
have a nephew on tour as well, and every time I ask my sister, where's Aiden? She's like, I don't know. I'm like, how could he should give you his Master Tour account just so you can follow your son around.
Exactly.
Which I'm sure the son would love.
I was very used to the tour books that I used to have to create. Book
of Lies. Yep.
Yeah. Have to create that, carry those around, have those printed. There was a fabulous company out of LA that used to do a whole bunch of that. And she was the Wonder Woman that used to put everybody's together. And so
Smart Art.
Use that, pardon? No.
Smart Art.
Know it all or know it or something. And she was.
Yeah. No, There's two. Yeah.
And
or Nowhere or. Yeah.
She, I just came across the book, the little box I have of all the tour books, and I was kind of laughing at it. And I was like, oh my God, so many countries, so many things. But anyway, I digress. We are here to talk about you and what you've done.
Yeah, no, we often get credited to killing the tour book, and I mean that wasn't intentionally; just technology killed the tour book. But it's it is something that is you can know. I mean, the one thing of technology in a lot of ways is you don't have that box of old tour books that you can go flip through. That is a sentimental nostalgic thing, sometimes helpful, being like, hey, what's that hotel I stayed in Wichita in 2008, flip through it. But we've replaced a lot of that, hopefully, with just a more efficient, reliable way of accessing that information, past, current, future. But there is something nice. I still have 100 tour books, and it's still nice. The artwork, I mean, people took a lot of time on the cover page artwork. A lot of people took a lot of time in the little notes and the comments about birthdays, or special cities to visit. So we have replicated a lot of that in the mobile app to make it more of a, a personal experience. So it's not just a static app.
it not only took that, it only helped replace that a bit, but it also the day sheet that I had to do every
Yeah.
single day and made sure
Under
that
the hotel door, right?
everybody's hotel. Exactly.
Yeah.
I was constantly running around trying to make sure nobody switched rooms. Just to make sure I didn't give the
Which
wrong
rooms?
right. Oh yeah. Believe me.
No, that's you're right. That is just for people that don't know touring. I mean, that is, and again, just to go into the overwhelming task of a tour manager, not to mention a production manager or anybody else on the tour, but the tour manager, that it is a 22-hour-a-day job. They're the ones that get up at 6 a.m. to print out, they used to, 70 day sheets, walking around, slipping them under the doors of the hotel. And and again, that was an experience that everyone was just comfortable doing, whether they got up at 6 or 4 in the afternoon. It's like, what am I supposed to do today? They go, rip out that piece of paper. Again, now it's on the phone, like everything. I mean, one of the biggest turning points we had in the company is when we released a mobile app, because then that became then something that not only the touring operators, the production manager, tour manager, but the crew, especially the artists, then they became very familiar and comfortable getting their itineraries on a phone. And that really helped us, because then, especially on monetizing it, then when the tour went to the artist or management saying we need to license this, they're like, well, of course we use it in the last 5 tours, we'll keep licensing it. Before that, it was like, why do I have to pay to make the tour manager's job easier? Just do it and you pay for yourself. So that was a big turning point with mobile and doing things that you didn't have to print, especially a lot of paper. We've saved a lot of trees. That's the only reason why I got into this.
Yep. So why don't we, we jumped right into this, but why don't we just take one step back a bit? Why don't you tell us how you got started, what motivated this, how, where did it come from?
I mean, the real short version is I was a touring musician in the 90s. Prior to that, I started a promotion company in Des Moines, I think in 91, 92. And we're bringing in just jam bands at the time, the Dave Matthews and, the Freddie Jones band and Big Head Todd, sample stuff. Yeah, stuff that was just big for college scene. And so I got the taste of being in the business then, and just indirectly became a drummer in a band in Chicago that was pretty well known, and more specifically toured a lot. We did 220 shows a year across North America. So during that time, I just because we had so much time on the road, I started developing things that would manage the tour a little better. I wasn't a computer programmer, but knew enough to stitch little databases together and to manage the contracts, manage the hotels. I mean, if we had any guest lists, that type of thing. Going through this really quickly, I was very fortunate to then meet Ian Kuhn, who had come from the Smashing Pumpkins as a crew member, and he had built something for the Smashing Pumpkins that we then kind of tinkered around with. Very much more importantly, right after my band, he was hired by the Dave Matthews Band. He brought it to the Dave Matthews Band, and they really invested and made it to what it is now, where as far as adding features and accounting and all the production and all the hotel database and stuff. So that really helped get it out there, because once it became known that Dave Matthews Band was using it, it was pretty easy to demo it and find other artists at that level to use it. And again, it's just, I mean, everyone that knows what a tour book is, it at that point, it was just managing tour book level information. But Master Tour then, and even now, it's nothing really to do with pre-contract. It doesn't contract the show. It doesn't manage. It manages the budgets and the settlement, but it has nothing to do, with the agency side or with how the show comes into fruition. It's just once the show is booked, everything gets put into Master Tour, so that everybody that touches the tour, even the promoters, the travel agents, the record labels, know what's going on and know where their band is, know what hotel they're at, know how many people are on the guest list. With the right access, you get into the accounting, and then you get into some of the more financial stuff, personnel management. So really, it's just kind of like a big old Salesforce type app for tours. And we started with bands, and most of it were just rock and roll bands. And then just it organically grew into things, ranging from the Moscow Ballet to NASCAR to PJ back in the day trying it on political campaigns. There was things with so it's grown. It's still about 80% traditional people on stage making music for fans, but It really has organically grown just to other things that aren't about music, theatrical touring, conventions, product activation runs. So that's kind of the exciting part of where it's going is we have no idea, if we've run out of bands. We still sign up, 10 or 20 bands a day in the demos, and they're most of the time bands I've never heard of from some weird, village in Norway, and they end up being a band that sells, 4,000 tickets a night. Never heard of them.
Yeah.
But there's just so much music out there, especially post-COVID. Everyone's getting out. Everyone's loving to go back and seeing shows. Everyone loves being on tour. And that has, for a long time, obviously been the only way to make real money for an artist, is touring. I mean, now things are creeping back as far as other ways to monetize it, back into streaming and back into actually getting royalties from recordings. But touring is still the meat and potatoes, of an artist's career. So we're happy to be kind of supporting the technology for that.
That's amazing. Sorry, BJ, real quick though. That's amazing because I'm like literally following how you're saying all of this. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like right in line with how, like what my background is. PJ comes from the political side of things. I came from the rock and roll side of things, entertainment side of things. So it was a nice little mesh when we did it. Just as I'm listening to you and you were mentioning the other industries, I that was one of my questions. I'm like, well, lots of people can use this. Like how are, like this is not just for the concert touring people. I mean, this is literally a way for people to stay very organized and have the group stay organized in one spot. And so, I really, I like that, but I apologize, PJ, I interrupted what your thought process was probably. So.
Well, no, I see you alluded to kind of COVID, and I that's one of the things we wanted to know. And I was very curious about is how did it initially impact when everyone stopped touring?
Yeah.
And now has it, what's the impact been post COVID? Have you seen an explosion in?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'd been in business and been through recessions and been through, political climate events, and I mean things that have affected the economy and other things. And music and especially live music has always triumphed through any of that. I mean, even through the recession, the way it totally maintained and even grew, during that. So it was interesting. We were fairly arrogant before COVID, thinking there's nothing that's going to stop the live music industry and our business that supports it. And then, soon April, or let's call it, probably by April, this time of 2020 on the news, they're like, as long as you don't go to a concert, you should be okay. That was the headlines. I mean, that was one headline on CNN or something, like 2 months into COVID. They're like, just don't go to a concert and you'll be fine.
You guys have a big industry-wide middle finger to everybody that says that.
No, it was just like, could you just it was like, don't go to anything that has a lot of people in the event, like a concert. Don't ever go to a concert again. So, we were the lucky ones for sure, as far as a business on that. Yeah. We were technology and software. So, we did have to lay off a lot of people, and fortunately kept the core group through it. The government and the PPP loans were suspiciously but awesomely efficient at releasing that capital, and it saved our butts. And it was, it allowed us to maintain the business and keep the servers on. I mean, I had a hunch that if live music didn't come back after COVID, there's way bigger problems than me and my business. I mean, that's 100%. Zombie apocalypse types of stuff. If no one can ever go out again, then so I was sure that that wasn't going to be the case. I mean, I was hopeful, and I also knew that when COVID ended, when it finished, or when it, everyone stopped following the rules, whatever it was, that touring would be back, music would be back, and our customers would be back. So we didn't spend any time creating new products or fancier buttons. We just maintained the software. We made it, we cleaned it up a lot with the resources that we had. And sure enough, almost 2 years to the date, when after that little fake out, before what was the second wave of COVID? Not the Corona, but then the Delta. Yeah, Omicron. I mean, all great names for bands before COVID. Some awesome names for bands. But everyone came back, in just right away. And we've been on a pretty nice hockey stick since then. We've doubled in size since pre-COVID. There was a whole shift initially to a lot of companies. People were reaching out to us to pivot into the streaming side of things, the live event streaming.
Yeah.
And I remember just watching a few of those initially and being like, hey, that's a done and done thing. It doesn't replicate the experience of being at a concert, of being in a community, of
Right.
the smells, good or bad, of a concert, and
Yeah.
the sweat and the dancing. So I knew that wasn't going to last. So yeah, we kind of maintained and stayed focused to the core business, and it fortunately came back. And like I said, we've kind of doubled since then, and really been able to build back a good crew here, in staff, and everyone that was using the software came back. And then we've really seen a lot of these other industries use it. And I think one thing COVID did was get a lot of the touring professionals, a little more open to doing things outside of their comfort zone or outside of the box. So a lot of the people that toured, ended up going and working for TV and film. And now we have a lot of TV and film productions that use it because that tours just like a band for the most part. A lot of them started working for conventions or for product activations, and they knew how to use Master Tour, and they knew how to kind of fit it into that space. So that's helped us explore those kind of other markets to address.
That's amazing. And I loved, here's what I said about COVID. If you didn't figure out how to pivot, and pivoting, I didn't necessarily mean that you had to create a whole new thing, but if you didn't know how to pivot because of your business model and how you could figure it out, then you were not going to succeed once COVID was finished. It was an opportunity for everybody to figure out how to pivot. And for us in the business that we're in, right, in the security perimeters, we were very fortunate because all of those people were out of jobs and we needed them because we were still working. We still had to do the conventions. We still had to do the debates. So having come from that industry, very fortunate to find people that had built festivals, been on tours, been tour managers who just wanted to stay working and just wanted to do it. And while it wasn't the same industry or product that they were accustomed to, they could easily adapt to it. Where there were oftentimes, and PJ and I have both been on the road on the advanced side of it, we know that sometimes they could take 10 hours to build an arena. And I know that we could bring in people that are in production and they can do it in 4. And I'm just like, I don't know who you're hiring, but I'll tell you how it gets done. This is what happens. When sound check is at 4 o'clock, sound check is at 4 o'clock. Nobody's waiting around to figure out how it's going to happen. So I applaud that you did, stay with and realize that when those people pivoted, you kind of pivoted with them. So I that's awesome. That's amazing. I like that. I like
that. I mean, it was interesting. And again, I said we were the fortunate ones because we didn't have, inventory. We didn't have, a storefront to, keep running. So we were lucky on that. But as you know, I mean, the crew were some of the most unlucky people out there. And, some of them were fortunate to parlay with their skills into a more traditional job in engineering or electrician or carpentry or something. But the one thing that we've seen really challenging, and I think I can see it evening out a little bit, but post-COVID, everything rushed back, but people are expected to do twice the amount of work. And so that's when we've seen just the overwhelming, touring, as is an overwhelming career. I mean, just in best case scenario, you're in a different hotel every night. You're in a different bus. You're getting, not consistent sleep or diet. And that's the best case scenario. Most of the touring world are touring, with 15 people on a bus and, really limited catering and really limited resources. And it's not that comfortable. I mean, it's still, most people love it. And that's just the nature of who does this. And people absolutely love it. But yeah, that was difficult to see when people were getting double worked. A tour manager had to do the duty of a tour accountant or production manager because the producer, the tour management couldn't afford to staff it properly. So, and I'm sure you guys have seen this insecurity, just, that turn of a lot of the old school people, that built the industry and built the fundamental principles of stage security and of everything about the safety of an event. Well, a lot of them were old that have created, and during COVID, they're like, well, fuck it, I'm retiring. So there's a big surge wave of young people, very well intended, but without that experience and, without having that mentorship for the years and years that you need to have that mentorship to be able to do that. So that's been, and we as a company don't address this. We can't really, but we've just seen how people have had to, and some very obvious, I mean, it's one thing to mess up and not have enough towels on stage for the drummer, but not having the proper stage construction or the right amount of security people around an event, or the right, pre-security checks. I mean, all these things that now we're given to very inexperienced people, just because out of not, I think just there wasn't the availability of the well-trained people after COVID. And so now I think it's getting better. Do you agree?
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree. I will tell
Yeah.
you that I did see that when they started to go back on tour that, people had doubled the amount of shows they were doing and they were going to rush back into
Yeah.
it. They wanted to do it. And they were like, we're going to make it up. We're going to make it up. And I'm like, yeah. And by the time you hit, let's say they have 130 shows, by the time you hit 75 shows, your crew is burnt out.
Oh, they're fried. They're absolutely fried.
Focus correctly. They want to do it. They love it. And like you said, when you're in the business, I mean, you love it. You're not in the business that long because you don't love it.
Yeah.
You love it. It works out. It happens. But when they rushed back into it and I saw these artists doing 130, 150 shows, I'm like, oh my God, you're crazy. Like this is craziness because people are not thinking straight. But you segue into what I would like to sort of position this right now. And that is the security side of things. Like how does your product and I did go on your website and I was looking through it a little bit and I have looked through a little bit of what my son has on his, but do you get into, and I mean, or how much can you get into, or do you try to get into the security side of things? And by that, I specifically mean, do you talk about like, what if something happens at a particular venue or, are you that vested into it? And, does the app give them options about like in the event of an emergency, go do this or rally points or, things like that. I mean, we do that because we know how to do that and we teach our crews how to do that. But is that conversation had within this app? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it has ever since. I mean, I'm dear friends with Jim Digby, who created the Event Safety Alliance, and that the ESA was formed out of the initial, it formed out of the Sugarland stage collapse in Indianapolis. And that was the initial thing where our industry, in particular, unfortunately for the ESA, stepped in and said, "This is what we've been screaming about for years. There's no regulations. There's nothing that is standardized in the way these things are made, stages at all different levels." And then, over the years, it's just been interesting seeing how the ESA has also had to not pivot, but also open things up to a mass shooter event and open up to, not just stage collapse from inclement weather, but everything that has affected these massive things, especially the mass shootings, Bataclan and in Vegas. That it's really our industry in generally is just behind on a lot of this stuff at no fault of anyone's. It's just our industry has always been kind of like, let's learn and create as we go through this. So we've always had the intent, once we've had critical mass of users, to start bringing in things about safety awareness. One thing that I've thought our app, we have 320,000 users on our mobile app. So if you've got a crew going into arena, there's probably 150 people on the mobile app. So, I know through security briefings now, it's still done, at the beginning, a couple hours before the show, everyone's brought together and gone through the security briefing on that, which you can't replace. We've thought, how do we put that in? I mean, one thing that immediately has a lot of holes is like, how do you provide something within Master Tour? God forbid there is a safety event happening, so that they say, okay, here's a map of the venue, here's the exit, here's a check-in to alert my tour management that I'm safe. The intent of that is great. Now, would you want that same information to fall in the hands of someone that's perpetrating this event and giving them exposure to where, certain safe rooms are or exits are? I mean, and surprisingly, as you guys know, this information is just publicly available anyway on websites, as far as venue maps. And we've thought about a lot of things. We thought about definitely using the influence that we have and the eyeballs we have in the app, especially, because that's another thing. You can't rely on an app that's just a one-off purpose. If there was a safety app, well, then everyone would have to remember what that app is. Then, of course, their login wouldn't work because it's been a year and a half since they opened it up. So because everybody in touring is on our app every day, that we've thought there is going to be things in there that we can put We've just started to do that with our new partnership with Backline Care, which is a mental health service for the industry. And that the idea is, right now in our app, it's right down in the main menu bar, Backline. It just tells, hopefully everybody sees it. And we've done some marketing around it to say to announce this partnership. But it just gives direct contact for anybody in the app, obviously for free, to communicate with someone from Backline, with mental health issues. And we've heard some great stories of just people that didn't know existed. And I mean, we have some incredibly strong people, both physically, mentally on tours. Yeah. It's a very difficult thing, no matter how, bad your situation is, to walk into the venue day of show at 10 a.m. when, whether you're a guitar tech, a rigger, carpenter, like a big part of that show relies on you getting your work done today. So it's very difficult, for touring professionals to go in and say, hey, I'm fucked up today. Like, I've had a really bad day. Stuff at home is falling apart. I'm unhappy about my career. Mentally, I'm exhausted. Physically, I'm exhausted. I need a day off. No one really does that, just because of the perception. And I think the stigma that you get traditionally, and still to this day, even indirectly, from management or promotion, on just saying, well, tough it up. It's just a day, get through the day. You've got a day off in 4 days and you can deal with it then. I don't tour enough to know how abrasive that is when you're on the road. And I know everybody I know would bend over backwards. They would double their work to take care, of a stage a stage manager that just needs a day off. But it's that stigma of presenting yourself with that weakness. And I think that's, part of having kind of a back channel way to call something like Backline. You don't have to go to your tour manager, production manager. Now there's a resource that you can go independently, privately to. And again, I think that's good and bad. Going to a tour manager, every tour manager, production manager I know would stop everything they can to take care of that person. But still, it's that part of, mentally, you don't want to kind of create that weakness, especially in our industry. And hopefully that's shifting. I see it shifting, but there is such a massive demand. I mean, when certain things that day, if you're the, front of house engineer, you're the only one, and you don't show up for that show, well, a lot of times that show's not going to happen. And then you're 5, 10, $1 million, $2 million, out of pocket. So the pressure of that is overwhelming for so many people on the road.
It's definitely, and we do see the crossover in different industries. I mean, there's the yachting industries that has the same thing. They're on all the time when they're doing things. Flight attendants, contract government work. I mean, it all has the same thing. And it's like what you said, nobody wants to walk in and show a weakness, because the general rule out there is you're only good as your last gig, right? I mean, that's literally what is said to us when we're out there. And there's 1,000 people in line that want my job. They want it. They want to do it. And, and as you were saying, when you started this, what happened when they rushed back into this, and when they got back into this, because everybody was so excited. And when the old guard decided that they were done with this, and then all of these new kids, and I will call them kids, decided to step into this, with less experience, you get a little worried out there, you get a little worried about what they're capable of. And will they step up and say, I am so tired today, I can't do it. I cannot do it anymore. And does everybody now in the crew go, oh, great. Like, what is that? Whatever. I mean, and they do rally behind them. There are groups that rally behind them. My personal story behind that is the son that I was just telling you about went off with a fantastic big country artist, hitting the road, blah, blah. But the very end of the tour, second to last show of the tour, he's like, I can't do it.
Oh man.
I cannot do it anymore. And stepping back from that show was massive. That was big. Took himself off. Now out with someone smaller, has a little more, gets to come home, but that was a very big, and that phone call he made to myself and his dad. And he was like, if I do this, I'm like, we will back you. You do what you need to do, and don't worry about right now what has to happen. Just get safe. Get somewhere safe where you feel like you can take an exhale. And I think that that's what everybody needs to understand, because when you're in those situations and you don't feel safe, whether it's mentally or physically, and you don't feel safe, you've got to be able to know how to take that exhale. You have to learn how to do that. But I applaud that I applaud that your app has that backline care. I think it's an amazing thing. So, PJ, we're stepping all
Yeah,
over.
and that's just the it's the start. Like we are gonna and very carefully,
Yeah.
Introducing other things. We're starting, with music cares or various things. I mean,
Yep.
there's a lot of things that I want to do. For the crew in particular, we're launching a profile system in the crew to help with job placement and just local amenities and support and finding your friend on a different tour so that you can communicate with somebody outside of the tour that might be in the same market. We're launching a venue system. We've already launched the first part to standardize the advance process so that every venue, every facility has the same standardized tech pack. So when you're advancing 30 different markets and venues, every tech pack will be digital, will be the exact same thing. And the profile system is the thing that I'm really excited about, so that we can really give something more to the users kind of on the mobile side. And eventually, my real big picture hopeful thing that we can provide eventually is healthcare for the industry, because that's one of the things that isn't massively underappreciated. I mean, from people outside of our industry, these are all subcontract workers that barely have anything resembling proper health coverage. We want at some point to be able to go to a company with 300,000 users, registered users in the system, and say, hey, this is a very big market needed. Like, what kind of plan can we put together? That's as far as we've gotten on that, but that's kind of the dream.
No, I think no, it's good dreams. I like good dreams. I mean, I'd probably say it every single episode. I mean, on our side, security isn't sexy. You know what I mean? It's not sexy, but we have to talk about it. We have to talk about it because it's very important. It's something that, people need to know and they need to understand. So we try to just figure out ways to position ourselves in the different industries to be able to have these conversations. And I know for sure that this episode will get a lot of listens because everybody wants to hear what's the newest and latest and greatest and what's going on. And
great.
And they're very familiar with your product. I mean, your product is amazing. Great. I loved it.
Thank you.
I got it, seeing it and everything. And then, when PJ contacted me and he's like, hey, I know this guy made this app, and I'm not downplaying it. I'm just, and he was just like,
I know this guy.
To be that cool.
Yeah. Master Tour. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what are you kidding me? My son uses that. I'm very aware of this app. I love this app.
Thank you, PJ. Thank you, PJ. I appreciate it.
So anyway, I like the directions, and I do like it that you're open to all of these different things. I mean, it's a big industry, but it's a little industry. I mean, we all know each other.
Oh, totally. Right. No, especially in Nashville.
Yeah.
It's I mean,
yeah.
I can vouch for that.
No, you can't. Poser.
Oh God. Well, having said all of these things, somebody, as they're listening and they're listening to this, and maybe somebody doesn't have your product. How do they do this? What do they do? How do they get on this?
You go to the internet. You type in Master Tour, and my staff hasn't told me the new way to do it. They don't give me that kind of information. But fortunately, I'm joking.
You with too much new information.
Yeah, right, exactly. But my understanding is that it is on the internet somewhere. But the nice thing is that it's funny because we're redoing our website, like every company does every 5 years. But how not incredibly only important a website is anymore. That back when I started businesses, that if you didn't have that domain that spelled out your name of the company, you're screwed.
Yeah.
So now, really, we're fortunate if you just type in Master Tour to Google, it brings you to like 20 different ways to get to the app and the download and the demo. It's a 2-week demo. There's a lot of different ways most of the time, a tour will just onboard you. The mobile is free, to be an admin, it's a pay, but then they can invite as many people on the mobile as they need, just like the equivalent of handing out, whoever needed a tour book type of access.
Yeah.
So internet, go to the internet, type in Master Tour.
That's perfect.
Actually, it's funny. We actually ever since I started Master Tour, I wanted mastertour.com, and it was some travel agency in Thailand because it was about, creating a Master Tour for tourists.
Yeah.
It's a big company. So I'm like, well, we're never getting that. And about a year ago, it came online. I got it for like $67. So now we have mastertour.com. Pretty good.
Took you long.
Finally.
You got it.
Yeah, finally. Right.
Your career is complete.
Right. Just when I actually don't need it, I get it for $67.
It's already building up and building up. Oh my God. Well, you've
Yeah.
definitely talked about the new things that are coming out in your business. And I again, I mean,
Yes.
I applaud this. I think it's amazing. Certainly wish I had it when I was doing things.
No, I know. That's great. I mean, I
But
toured when there wasn't cell phones, like, because I'm sure I'm not going to
I had like,
suggest you did too, but I'm saying that was when you would pull over at a payphone
oh,
and
God.
call the venue and say, "Hey, we are 2 hours out. Like, we're still supposed to be there, right?" And they're
Right.
like, "No" or "Yes." But it is funny, people did huge 100,000 person. The Who toured
Yeah.
most of their professional career without the internet and without cell phones.
Yep.
And it just got done somehow. The shows happened all the time. I mean, there was way different practices, and the way you got paid in cash and briefcases were totally different. But it happened, and now it's like we're taking 1,000 different things that someone just did back in the day before technology, that just assumed it was done correctly, because if it didn't, you'd be fired.
Yeah.
And now we have 18 different ways to communicate that one thing is done correctly. So there is part of that in our industry that we've lost a little bit of the art of just doing your job, because you can over compensate by the communication ease.
I mean,
That we see that very often in the political world, where things are dictated from thousands of miles away. No, you're wrong. This is how it has to look. Like, no.
Yeah. Think about that. Just like you guys, like, advancing a huge campaign, or a rally, back in the early 90s, 80s, 70s, like the Stones would play, in 150,000 seat stadiums, and the tickets were sold, and they got there on time, and the stage was set up, and it's just amazing that it did get done before any of this silly technology came into play.
Well,
but that
but the technology part of it is what's making it fun now. And having now my generation, like I said, my son being out there, I'm like, hey, like, this is the ever evolving part of this. I mean, this is how it's all working,
I don't know. I think it was pretty fun to be in a band and tour in the 70s and 80s. I'm going to say that was a lot of fun compared to now. But
well, when you just mentioned,
I see your point.
When you were mentioning like people being paid, and I mean, how they got paid. I mean, I can often remember getting called to little, the trailers, and then handing me cash, and I'm like, wait, what? No, wait, what?
Yeah.
No. I need a production manager in here with me right now because I have to carry this home.
Oh, yeah. No, I have friends that used to tour, then would get paid in, briefcases of cash, and they would put a gun in the briefcase. Because every once in a while, the promoter's in on getting them robbed when they're walking back to the tour bus, like the good old days.
No, you know what? I'm just curious, like, what's next? Have you guys added like a groupie toggle on your app yet so that they can be scheduled?
No. No, again, I think that's a thing of the past. But
so you don't have any heavy metal bands? No 80s hair bands?
Have you been to a heavy metal show recently? It's pretty calm back there. Go to some folk band that's touring around in a van and trailer. That's a lot more fun. But no, we do have a cool thing in the app that we've had for years. We don't talk about it a lot just because it was like a chicken and the egg thing. But now that we've got critical mass, we're putting it out more. But it's a tagging feature, and it's basically like Yelp for touring. Mm-hmm. So you go into the button down there, and it just brings you into boom. So all those tags in Chicago, are user generated from crew.
Yeah.
So if they're in, Chicago and they like Italian beef, they'll go to Oak Park to Johnny's. They put it in there, and then you click on Johnny's and it says these 5 crew member recommended it. So it's a thing to really just, especially for days off or after show food or a place for guitars or guitar strings or dispensaries now are a big thing. I wouldn't know about them, but then everything that's just helpful for tours and bands and band members. So I've heard about that. So that's very helpful. And we're going to start doing things in partnerships. I can't talk about them, but like with airlines and hotels that are just going to give discounts and benefits and upgrades and things, that kind of like we're trying to build like that AAA model for Master Tour. So it's not just a tool, to kind of help get your car towed, but you can also get discounts, at Arby's. That's kind of what I'm modeling it after.
I like that. That works. I think it's
Yeah.
good. I think it's great. I like all of it. I'm happy that we finally got a chance to sit and chat with you and for you to take in a little bit of time with us today. I mean, we're all super busy and getting ready to go into our convention season, and it's a big political year. So everybody's moving in different directions, but
well, you guys should use Master Tour for part of that.
Well,
we got to figure out how that works.
As you were talking, I mean, my little brain was working. I'm like, maybe let me figure this all out.
I mean, that is the ultimate plan. Once we're at a point now where we are going to expand into things. I mean, the obvious one is TV and film, because that is the most replicable to this. But PJ, as you know, political campaign, touring, and as you guys know, that's now those things minute. Like our thing is like lunch, load in, sound check, lights, focus. But you guys are like at 5:05, we have to walk across this bridge. At 5:07, if we're not across the bridge, then we have to walk over this next chair. And then if the chair is not there, then we
cue the deer.
Yeah. So, but what a better way to have that in an instant updatable application instead of, printing out like a 3-ring binder of all this stuff.
Well, when we baited it on that congressional campaign here, the campaign manager loved it.
Yeah.
And we talked about a couple of tweaks. I think we talked about that. That was 20.
And that was 10 years ago or 8 years ago. And now we're at a point where we can, because the only thing people that have used it can bend it to work. But someone out of the box using it for a political campaign, it still says artist, it still says set list, it needs to say, principal candidate instead of artist, or it needs to say, we need to just change some of the naming convention. But other than that, 80% of it is there. But you guys would even use a set list for the schedule of like a teleprompter, or using not guest list, but credential management, for everybody there on site and what they're getting in security detail. And obviously you guys have hotels and you have transportation, commercial, private, you've got, a personnel management, that a lot of the same people are probably gonna be crew members. And that's the cool thing is like everyone's going to have a profile. Everyone does have a profile now, but they're going to really be more motivated to kind of manage the history in their profile, so that if you guys are looking for work in Chicago and you need 10 stagehands, you'll be able to go to Master Tour, see who's available, and then kind of hire them on the spot. But that same person could be someone that's running, security detail or managing a stage for a campaign, and they might have just gotten off Carrot Top's tour, the day before. So it's like everyone's kind of in that same type of work.
I think that's, I like that. And honestly, oftentimes when I was out doing advance work, I literally would get asked like, well, what's the difference between when you were doing like concert tours and this? I'm like, well, the first big difference is that we don't get protested. People actually want to come out and see my artist. And I said, but other than that, it really was the exact same thing. I've got an artist I need to put on stage. I've got a run of show I need to put together. I mean, all of the things were extremely parallel. So it was an easy transition for me to basically understand it. We just pivoted more into the security side and working on that side of it, and just making sure that those assets were managed properly. But understanding from the production level and logistics level has definitely helped me in my transition to this world. So
exactly.
We're all basically talking the same thing. We use a little bit of the different jargon, but for the most part, it really is the same type of thing. And like you said, there's lots of industries that do the same type of thing. They just call it a little bit something else, and
it really is. It's almost the exact same. It's just moving a big group of people around safely, efficiently, securely, it's really whether you're, White Snake, or a political campaign, or river dance, or a ballet. It's really the same type of logistics.
Right. And there's definitely the side of things that, when you get into, and you alluded to this a little bit when you're talking about the safety and things like that, and how deep you can go with it, how many layers can you put into it so that it doesn't, it doesn't overwhelm the user. Do you know what I mean? And like you said, nobody really wants to add another app to their phone that says, okay, where was I supposed to go safety? You know what I mean?
Right.
One location, I don't want another app on my phone. I have way too many as it is, what I mean? So having something like this that probably alludes to a little bit of the safety factor, kind of helps them and everything.
We would love to. I mean, we would, ever since, especially with the ESA, figuring out how to integrate like a lot of that into Master Tour, and but again, we've never had the capacity or the resources to really understand and without, because now it's not just someone's name isn't on the guest list. Like we can't fuck up a security related feature
Correct.
in Master Tour. Like that's just like, that
Right.
is it would be
Well,
a horrible way to, end this business. And that's the big reason, just because
right.
that is, in my opinion, one of the most important things. Doesn't matter how many tickets you sell or how much, roast beef is in catering. It's like the security of that show is the most important thing, whether it's just the, personnel management, crowd management, stage construction,
Correct.
weather alerts and weather awareness. There's just so many things that most people don't think about that is such an important part, especially festivals, that people,
Yeah.
that the amount of energy, money, and time that goes into just making sure the grounds are safe.
Yeah.
And the backup plans, the contingency plans for when it isn't, like people don't appreciate that. But so anyway, we do want to get into that, but it's something we cannot take lightly. We have to do correctly. So
That's good. And when you want to get into that, if you really want to, I mean, behind the scenes, if you ever need consulting on that, also, obviously, not only are we the experts, but we have an entire team of them that would be more than willing to sit with you and go over those things, because what we can't stress enough, and often I use this again to the people I know on tour, situational awareness on and off that stage is really what's key when you're out there. So, and it changes in venue to venue, but it's still situational awareness. But like, I love your product. I think it's fantastic. And if there's any way that you'd love to be able to have a behind the scenes conversation with us, we are more than happy. And I'd
love to come out and just shadow you guys.
To plug it. It just came up naturally in this converslike because you were just discussing it. So,
no, I would love to go shadow you guys for a day and just see how that world lives. I mean, give me a like fake wooden gun. I'll pretend I'm security.
Oh, great. You want to go to jail? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I got it.
No, just pretend I'm like one of the main security guys. They'll believe this. They'll believe like this can secure something.
Oh, lovely. Okay.
Yeah, but no, I love seeing the different in like going on a television set or a film set, or even like we started working with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra recently, and just seeing just a slightly different way things are done there and the way they operate and tour. I love that. So I'd love to.
For sure. And I think you'll probably be able to get those opportunities, because I think, fingers crossed, we will definitely be in Milwaukee and Chicago,
nice.
during this summer, because those large events that are coming up.
Right on.
We'll definitely get a hold of you. Love to have you out there, a couple days, take a look at things, see it once it's all set up. You can see the impact of how it affects the city and so forth. I mean, not much different than a festival, maybe just with, like you were saying, bigger guns and bigger fences. So,
Yeah, right. Yeah, lots more movement.
Yeah,
lots more movement.
Yes. So anyway, well, I thank you so much for all.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's been an absolute pleasure to have your PJ. Has definitely talked about you for a while now, so I'm glad that we were able to connect our schedules and make it work. And as I always say, whenever I can get anybody on here who has anything in the entertainment world, I love when my worlds collide, because
awesome.
They're always things near and dear to my heart. So
no, it's been a pleasure. I'm glad it got scheduled.
Thank you very much. PJ, got anything else before we all say goodbye here?
No, just thank you, Paul. I'm glad I finally harassed you enough to get
you. I had a gig
I'm glad
Saturday.
I didn't have to interrupt your set Saturday night when you were sitting in with the band.
No, I am in the band now. I'm not sitting in, man. I am in the. band.
Are you
the drummer now? In the band? Yes, I am the drummer now.
You are officially a Bushwood caddy. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm officially that. So I don't want that to overwhelm the podcast, though. The news of that. I want this to stay on focus. I don't want the word to get out.
I'll use that as the teaser then. How's that? I'll put that as the teaser when we're doing, when we're putting all of this together. Oh no, but thank you again. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
But as we say, PJ, thank you so much. I'm glad that we're all out here. PJ, try to come to Nashville so you don't have to fake it.
Hey, we but
I was there this year already for a hockey tournament. So
and we are doing we do a thing called The Gathering, where we just we do it in LA and we do it in Nashville, and basically we invite everybody in the industry, or especially crew, to it. So you're more. I'll send you an invite. That's we rent out the I think it's at the Thompson Hotel this year.
Yeah.
The rooftop. It's just all Nashville touring, mostly tour managers, production managers, management. So for anybody that actually lives in Nashville, I will send an invite too.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And it's very funny because
What do you mean?
having the background.
You know what I mean?
So having the background that I do, and whenever I show up like to an event that's in the industry, people are literally like, wait, what? Wait, was Anna here? Is there something, happening? I'm like, no, just here for all of this. Like nobody's behind me. It's all coming in good. So that's very funny. Yeah, love to join you. Love to meet you.
Yeah, you'll probably know some people. I mean, there's some dear people that have been in the business for 50 years. Some of the touring legends, literally touring legends.
Yeah.
That I've known that, I mean, it's Nashville. Like everybody knows everybody
100%.
in that town.
I think, Mike McGrath.
Yeah.
So, I think he wants to have a conversation with you. We don't because of things that he has, created. But that's just something and if there's an option to connect you to, but I'm just like thinking about that as we're talking about this. But anyway, thank you so much.
I'm sorry. I was thinking of the lead singer of Sugar Ray. It's not that McGrath.
No.
I'll meet him. No.
No. He's tour manager for McGraw at this moment. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. No, I know Mike.
Yeah, I know you do.
That reminds me. Just remind me of someone else I got to invite to now. Thank you. It's still not you, PJ. It's still not you. No, Chris Lyle. Chris Lyle's a good dear friend.
Yeah. We've had him on also.
Yeah. Exactly.
We've had him on as well. A really, really nice guy. And actually, I tried to do one of his sessions for him last year. He called me. It was the last minute because Mike had to step.
Oh, yeah.
But we were busy working at APEC in San Francisco, and I'm like, love to, but I'm kind of in the middle of something little here, so can't step away from this to come teach a class for you. But any other time, I definitely would have.
No, the touring career workshop that's an awesome thing that he's created.
Really good, and people get a lot.
And that's not even his day job. His real day job is building massive, communities of stages and little events like Lollapalooza, and
I think he's over. I think he's the NFL draft and everything. Also, we have lots of conversations.
Oh yeah.
And always the vendors and everything. We're always crisscrossing. But anyway, thank you again for your time. Great. Lovely to meet you.
No, thank you guys.
Stay safe out there, and I will stop this recording and we will hang up. Thank you guys. PJ, thanks so much.